v.h.s.x? What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today, I'm reacting and having a discussion about a video from Schizo, which will be linked in the description. The title is Why Dead by Daylight's Original Content Matters. So I wanted to give my thoughts on it, and just kind of see if I agree or disagree. Which off the bat, as somebody who doesn't really enjoy much of the original characters or the content that much at all, and what brought me to the game originally was the licenses, I already have the mindset that I would prefer licensed characters more than anything, way more than the original characters that are in the game. So I wanted to dive in and kind of talk about the topic.
That DVD was saved by its licenses. And to be quite honest with you, I don't really disagree completely with that statement at all. Some people say the behavior proved that they can handle a license with the Halloween chapter, and that set the game for success.
I would have to agree with that. I don't think that this game would have had any notoriety or any popularity if Halloween wasn't tied to this thing. I honestly believe that Halloween was the one thing that actually gave this game some a revival, honestly, or at least gave it something to latch onto to actually gain some popularity, because on the surface it really wasn't that great of a game in the first place. So them taking a chance with the licensing with the Halloween chapter, and obviously I even think furthermore probably even with the just the addition of the other licenses on top of that, really helped this game actually get a name for itself. Because and I think we can also see that with the licensing that we have nowadays, like with Halloween and even Nightmare on Elm Street, like two incredibly iconic licenses to be added into the game, really does at least give it some eyes. And just judging by how the strictness of the licenses are, if it kind of seemed like Michael and Freddy are kind of held on a leash, because they really don't get any sort of cosmetics or anything new to their appearances or anything at all, really. I mean, you can get like a rework or update the characters mechanically, but you can't alter their extremely dated appearance, especially when it comes down to Myers with his very polygon sort of sleeves he's got, and the very old looking model that he's got, and the mask, and even his physique is just incorrect to the actual source material, which is a bit unfortunate. But I will say, nevertheless, it's still extremely iconic as a result of that.
There's a lot of merit to that statement. I can't speak for how well this translated to DVD specifically on the business side of things, but Behavior actually has had quite a long record of being hired out to develop licensed content for video games in the years prior to DVD's release, actually.
I actually do agree with that. When they were working on Naughty Bear and stuff like that, they actually did have different like DLC costumes for like different icons. I think they had some for the I think they might have had some for Friday the 13th. I've seen some for Ghostface. I'm not sure if they had Nightmare on Elm Street or anything like that. And I believe they might have had a Halloween license there as well. Which I'm actually curious to see if I can actually find it. Just to kind of give you guys an example here, as you can see, they actually did have a Ghostface bear. So just so you guys can see it, right here, it was a DLC sort of content that they put out, and as you can see here, they had Ghostface in there. It seems like Pennywise. I think that's Batman, Jason Voorhees, Leatherface. Well, they're actually called Pennywise Bear, Jason Voorhees, Teddy Crew Bear, Bat Bear, and Paradise Island Chainsaw Massacre. So that actually does check out. We do have evidence of them actually having some licensing here. Now, the only problem is Right here it says the costume came from a horror movie called Scream and its following sequels 2 to 6, which means that they had a they had a Scream license, and then they just proceeded to get a mask license and give us some of the worst, I gotta say, some of the worst representation for a Ghostface character I've ever seen. Probably a hot take, but I'm just saying. I'm not a fan of it, man. And this was on Naughty Bear 2. So, assuming that the first one probably had like something similar, this is nothing new, I would say.
I would not agree that licenses are all that made DBD what it is, and I personally think that DBD's own original content and universe are the load-bearing wall that has allowed these licenses to keep building on top of the game over the last 9 years. In recent years, much of DBD's competition has been fully licensed ASIM games based on one franchise. Friday the 13th, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, Evil Dead the game, and the Killer Clowns from Outer Space game, most notably. And possibly lean more and more into a model that just keeps trying to draw more and more licensed content into the game. I don't mind a good license, as I've said before, but I think the fact that we've seen Tokyo Ghoul, The Witcher, Five Nights at Freddy's, Dragula, and The Walking Dead all in the span of like 4 months is a lot. Springtrap is cool even to me, someone who doesn't even play the FNAF games. The Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games of all time, a genuine masterpiece that I love dearly. The Boule skins are gorgeous, and I need the artist one really badly. I'm just sad that we're only going to be getting one original killer this year before we're back to guessing which new franchise is coming into the fold, or whether or not it's a new chapter for an existing one like Resident Evil or Stranger Things. I love horror.
I can understand the idea that the original content kind of falls behind, but on the other hand, like I've said, as somebody who originally had even started playing the game because of the fact that there are licenses and they were hosting essentially like characters that are not playable in any other medium, such as Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers and Ghostface and any other license, like even, you know, Leatherface at the time before TCM even arrived. To be able to play as these characters is what drew me in, and that's what I think a lot of people would gravitate to as well. And from a business perspective, that makes the most sense, is you're going to bring in a lot of players more with a well-known character like those big licenses compared to these like more original dudes, you know what I'm saying? And I can't say that there's a lot of characters that, in my opinion, that are as iconic or even come close to those licenses from the originals, right? I don't think there's anybody outside of DBD that would be able to say, hey, I know that character, or that character is super iconic and has a great design, and I totally want to know where that came from, and that looks really cool, or whatever have you. It's in such a weird niche in that way. But considering that Halloween is extremely iconic and stuff like that, both ways it makes the most sense that you want to go where the money's at. And the thing is, I also have to say that, at least from my perspective, like, I don't even really play many of the original characters as well, because I just don't believe that they all entirely have the most interesting, you know, mechanics to work on. I mean, coming to mind, I mean, we can kind of think of a few. I mean, Singularity is a standout. Unknown is also a standout. We also have other characters like Trapper and Wraith, and that are just quite simply I cloak and hit, or I place down traps. So I gotta say, like, as much as we can, as DBD players, like, can appreciate a lot of the characters that we have, like, I can't say that they come even close. A lot of the time you may even have like an interesting, you know, relatively interesting character, but you may even have like terrible cosmetics too, which sometimes that draws people in as well. Maybe they want to look cool while they're killing people. You know what I mean? For me, I gravitate to cosmetics as well pretty heavily. I like to customize and do all those kinds of things, really trying to, you know, represent different themes or ideas that I've had, and to be able to do that on top of like having a cool character, or even being able to, on the other hand, with licenses, step into the shoes of characters that are not playable on the market and have iconic looks from movies and other properties, or other media and stuff like that, to be able to take that and capture it and be able to actually play that as well is just, it's just a feeling like no other that the game can provide. And to kind of stray from that is what would bring me like sort of away from that part of the game.
And horror media. I was a fan of most of the things that have been added to Dead by Daylight or were already in it for pretty much all of my life before I got into the game in 2021. I don't actually mind that DBD has licensed content. It has its place, no matter whether or not I'm certain Geralt of Rivia could suplex the Doctor and break his neck. It just feels weird to see behavior slap Springtrap on the game's Steam page image randomly, even if it was just briefly after the release. The anniversary lobby that they showed at PAX East hasn't really been up all month. Just the same Fazbear's Pizza from the FNAF release. I guess on some level, I had just been hoping that they'd at least spend some time this summer celebrating the game they made, not just the franchises that they're putting into it. I'm excited for The Walking Dead. It looks neat and all. But at the same time, it's so weird to see iconic characters being added, only for it to be alongside nerfs to long-standing original killers like Knight and Clown.
I can understand the point that the originals are pretty much where the game kind of began from, right? And obviously that's, so it should be also considered and celebrated to some extent. But I do disagree because, like I've said, I wouldn't have joined the game if I sat there and saw a Doctor. You know what I mean? Or if I sat there and I saw Singularity. Even me playing the game when Singularity had dropped, I just thought his design was lackluster in terms of his appearance, because it didn't look that scary. It looked kind of cartoony to me. So I just thought I don't think that's gonna bring people in. And then we also have to take into account they had a lot of behaviors, dropped a lot of stinkers for quite a while, right? We've seen it with Knight. Was really not well received, especially design wise and even power as well. Skull Merchant did not do that hot either. The marketing was a complete representation of what we actually received. So that, of course, leaves a bad taste in people's mouths when that dropped. Houndmaster, they claim, was a pirate killer and was like the most far opposite of design you would imagine a pirate would be. As just a few examples of characters that they decided they were going to create and just did not follow through with what we would have expected, or what we think with horror would be, or what we think would be scary. And I would argue that it's a bit of a failure, you know what I mean, when it comes down to a lot of their original sort of ideas. However, we did also get some pretty good marketing with Unknown. I will say Unknown is a standout in my opinion. Like, they market like the sort of I don't know if they call it analog horror, but kind of having those like clips where he did look pretty terrifying, right? Like with the phone videos, and it's like, they're kind of hiding from him and stuff like that. I thought that was a fantastic way to represent him. Now, did he look that great in the game? Maybe not. He did look a little bit more scary in the trailers and stuff like that, obviously, but considering the game's engine and things like that and art style, obviously it's not going to be a one-to-one. But I do wish he was a little bit more creepy. But I love the way that even he would walk around in the lobby screen and stuff like that. I just thought it was fantastic. So I can say that there are some examples that behavior has given us that I thought were great. But there has also been a lot of really bad, like, just characters that they created that nobody cared about. I mean, we could even look at Twins. Like, I wouldn't say that that's really a horrific, quote unquote, like, sort of character that people will look at and go, oh man, what's that about? It's not like you're kind of drawn in from something like that. Which obviously we can even see that with the pick rate and stuff like that. That's a whole nother conversation. But in terms of somebody that had come in because of licenses, like, if I was looking for a horror game to play, I would want, especially if they're saying you could play as a sort of monster, you know what I mean? you would want it to be cool looking at the very least, I would assume, or at least have cool powers, and you can feel cool, you know, you can feel like you're scary, you know, that sort of power fantasy that has been discussed many times as well. And you know, that's mainly my point. Is I think Behavior really wants to lean into something that they know is going to work, and they also simultaneously are bringing in new players. So it seems like it's just a no-brainer. Like you can get multiple new players, and you also can bring in a lot of new fans, which also means more money. So like it just works. I mean, like how else can you put it, you know? So I can't blame them obviously for that. It makes the most sense. And as somebody who just only really cared for the licenses anyway, I mean, I'm down for it too. I want to be able to play as like Wesker, you know, in a non-Resident Evil game. Like I can play as Freddy, which we have no games for in the modern age. You know, Halloween games pretty much don't exist at this point. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I mean,
fair, those probably won't make it to live, but still. I don't want to see this weird little game that I fell in love with, and with its psychotic MK Ultra backstory, shocking doctor, and K-pop idol knife-throwing man being overshadowed by the Titan.
I kind of disagree with that to some extent. I don't even believe that anybody looking at Trickster as well. I had to add on to my point from earlier. I even think Trickster was a bit of a failure when it comes down to actually bringing something scary. Now, if you're focused on lore, I mean, yeah, you're like, okay, that's pretty messed up what he does with his victims and things like that. But on the surface, you're just seeing like K-pop star in a horror game. Because you got to keep in mind, a lot of people that are just kind of going through Steam or something, or just scrolling through their, you know, through their stores or whatever have you, will just scroll past, see that, and go, what? And maybe they'll look in, you know what I mean? But on the surface, you're like, you can play as a K-pop star, and it's just like, okay. Like I would think it's more ridiculous to, you know, but from my perspective, I could be wrong, but you know, you can let me know in the comment section. But at least for me personally, if I was a brand new like player and I was just rolling on by, I'm like, what the heck is why are we seeing a K-pop star in a horror game? Like that doesn't make any sense, you know. But anyway,
of other franchises. As much as I love some of those, I've always loved DBD for what it is, and I have actually been fearful that I'm going to be seeing less and less of that going forward.
I do want to add on one more point as well, and it's the fact that DBD conceptually was a horror movie simulator. I mean, we've seen that even from the beginning of the games even starting, and how they even described how the game was played, which was to feel like you're in a horror movie. Like that was the idea. That's what they were trying to go for, and that's how the game began, right? Like even the original characters were sort of you know, knockoff versions of more important and licensed actual killers that people care about. We're talking about like Trapper being a Jason stand-in, right? We have like Wraith that could be considered maybe even like similar to Predator in some ways. We've seen Hillbilly that's obviously a reference to Leatherface. Like, you know, we've seen a lot of these characters that even from the very beginning were literally just knockoffs, if you could say, of those other characters. Now that they have lore attached to it and they made them kind of like flesh them out to be their own, yes, but at the core level, at the literal seed of the idea, it's quite literally almost either a knockoff, if you want to call it that way, or a reference or whatever have you, of more important licensed characters. So the game, even from the ground up, it was trying to bring in these big names because all of the people working on the game love those movies and things like that and want to see that in the game. They would think that's cool at the end of the day. So on one hand, I can understand that people would want you know, more original stuff, but like let's really take a look at what we've had, you know what I mean? I wouldn't say we really got a lot of great stuff when it comes to the original. That's just me though. You know, you can let me know your opinions in the comment section. But anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. If you watched up to this point, you can watch the rest of the video, which is linked in the description on your own. But I gave my take. I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think of the topic? Like, Does the original content matter to you? Does it not? Do you think that do you like agree or disagree? You know what I mean? I want to know, like, what's your take on it? Consider joining the Discord to continue the discussion as well. While you're down there, we have ways to support the channel, so consider following on TikTok and Twitch, and you can watch me play Killer live on the YouTubes as well, man. Hit the subscribe button, and yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys in the next video.